I'm going to Kansas City. If I could, I could. I'm going to Kansas.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. My name is Emmanuel Cleaver III.
And I'm Emil Cleaver.
Check us out every Tuesday. A new episode drops. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can check us out most places you get your podcast. Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. So,
Chop.
a lot has been in the news, but one thing that hit the sports headline was Ben Simmons, who plays for the New Jersey, Brooklyn Nets. Well, I said plays for. He's on the team for the Brooklyn Nets. And he has been out with some injuries and was expected to come and join the team in the playoffs. And he never joined. And Boston beat them bad, beat the Brooklyn Nets bad. Even though the Brooklyn Nets have this super team, they got all these super players, and it still didn't work, but that's another subject altogether. So the headline is Ben Simmons. A lot of people have been saying all kinds of things. He should have played. What's wrong with them? What do you think?
Well, from what I understand, and I don't keep up with basketball. I don't keep up like I used to. But he's saying that he has some mental issues, anxieties. He's stressed out. He has mental issues that he needs to deal with. So this is the reason why he can't play basketball.
Yeah, he said it's because he had a bad series last summer, and he said the stress and anxiety of that he thinks aggravated his back. So he thinks it's stress that's causing his physical pain, which can't happen.
Yes. So I'm not in his mind. I don't know how he feels. I know a lot of people probably think he's just mentally weak. But, it seems to be happening a lot in sports lately. In the Olympics, it happened. I mean, it's happening on the tennis court. A lot of athletes are getting stressed out and can't compete at the highest level or can't compete sometimes. So, I mean, I know stress is real. Mental illness is real. I don't know, like I said, I don't know his particular situation, but it sounds like he probably needs some help.
Yeah, no question. Probably a sports psychologist would be helpful. I've heard people say, calm down, you make millions of dollars. And what I want to say to those people, what does that have to do with anything? Money isn't money. What is he supposed to do? Rub money on his mind and that's going to fix it? I mean, the only thing that the money can do is get him in with a good therapist.
Yeah. But just understand a lot of people, especially black people, don't say it. They don't believe in that therapy stuff. They don't believe in mental illness. If you're mentally ill, they just say, well, you need to go to church. You need to say some prayers.
That ain't. You need more than that.
You need to talk to your pastor.
Pastors are not equipped for it. And I know you are right. That's what happens. I'm gonna tell you this, folks. 99.9% of pastors are not equipped to handle with mental illness. We're not trained in that area. Pastors are trained in the area of giving you some spiritual advice. I always tell people, hey, you can sit down and talk with me, but if we have to go more than 3 sessions, we need to get you into a therapist, because that's not my area of specialty, and I'm not going to pretend like it is. And I'm telling you all out there, don't think that your pastor is equipped, because they probably are not.
Well, that's what black people think. I think I've seen a commercial about people who are stressed out and their friends telling them, you just need to relax. And I know I used to just tell people, toughen up, man. Just, you just got to toughen up. But I know it doesn't work like that. I don't know. Are people questioning? Is he faking it? Do they think he's faking it or what?
I've not heard anybody say they think he's faking it.
Okay.
I think when he didn't play, they were like, you make too much money, because he was an all-star. I mean, this is not just some role player. This is a guy who was an all-star.
We wouldn't be making a big deal of it if it was just a role player.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, I think people think he needs to just toughen up and just play. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. I'd say to people who just say toughen it up and play, I was like, have you ever had a physical injury where you're unable to play, unable to walk? Why don't you just toughen up then? I mean, you can. If you have a torn Achilles, there's no such thing as toughening up. You have to get it repaired. And the same thing is when you're mentally stressed out, you need to go and see a professional and get that worked out. No shame in it.
Yeah, but we come from the sports culture, the sports area, and coaches and fans, they don't want to hear that. They just want to hear about, like I said, toughen it up. They don't want to hear you need help. I mean, back in when we were playing in high school or college, I mean, we would just be, somebody like that would just be mentally weak.
Yeah, I mean, they would have get talked about because we were just ignorant. People were more ignorant. I mean, people still are ignorant.
Yeah, I mean, didn't they question what's her name that went to the Olympics and she
went to the Olympics? Or are you talking about the greatest Olympian of all time, Simone Biles?
Yeah, she was there, and she couldn't perform in the Olympics, and I know she received a lot of criticism for that.
Yeah, I would say to everyone who criticized her, how many Olympics have you been in? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Or competed on the world stage in gymnastics. Apparently, the thing that she was going through is common among gymnasts. It's not something that was exclusive to her.
Yeah.
It's something that has happened.
I know a lot of people were saying that they thought that if she felt like that, she should have let someone else take her place. She stopped someone else from going to the Olympics, from achieving their dreams. So I know that was a lot of the comments that I read, but I don't think she knew that this was going to happen until she got there. So if anything, you maybe had to blame the Olympics for not traveling with an alternative.
It was just that one event. I mean, she did still win medals.
Yeah,
it's just in that one event. So
yeah, but when you're the greatest of all time, you can't do that. I mean, I remember she was criticized. She was criticized for that, and then the tennis player,
Naomi.
Yeah,
come on, man, that's unprofessional.
Yeah, that's unprofessional. My phone went off.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah, but
podcast.
But the thing is, you see it in baseball when pitchers get the yips. When they're no longer, and it's not just pitchers. There've been some infielders who have been unable to play. If you've never heard of the yips, look it up. It's when something happens psychologically and you can no longer throw the ball where it's supposed to go. I just think just because these athletes are at the highest level of physicality that everything's going to work out, and because they make millions. Well, if you make millions, you shouldn't have any problems. That's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard.
That's the way that most people think nowadays.
I know, because most people don't have the money.
If you have money, you shouldn't have any problems. You should be able to solve everything. I mean, money helps out with a lot of things, but
doesn't help with everything.
Yeah, it doesn't help with everything.
Doesn't help with most. Helps. Yeah. What I always say, what money does. If you're feeling miserable, what money can do is allow you to feel miserable in a very comfortable house, eating very expensive food.
Well,
but
I mean, money can
miserable.
relieve stress. You don't have to worry about bills.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people day to day, they worry about paying their bills. I mean, not having that worry or stress in your life it won't make you happy, but I mean, it can relieve stress.
It can relieve stress in terms when it comes to paying bills that many people deal with. But Biggie told us.
But it can't help you mentally in a basketball game, or
it can't help with a lot of areas in life. Biggie said, more money, more problems. Comes with the territory. So let us know what you think. I think Ben Simmons, he needs to, like I'm a professional, like he's going to listen to me. But, no shame in that. He recognized it. Now, if he doesn't do anything about it, then that's a problem.
Yeah, well, I think the team is probably going to force him to do something about it, aren't they?
And at the end of the day, it still did hurt the team. I'm sure they're still not happy about it.
And that's what a lot of people, the fans, are mad about. The best player didn't play, hurt the team.
Not the best player. Okay. I mean, they do have Kevin Durant.
Okay, well, If he was there, people think they would have won.
Yeah, and I mean they had a good chance, but we don't know that they would have won. We don't know.
So people want him to give his money back because his money is guaranteed, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we know that money. He's not going to give the money back. I mean that. You might as well stop talking about that. And I understand the fans, all the Nets fans are upset, and maybe the team is upset because, he could have contributed, he could have helped. But at the same time, if he wasn't mentally able to, then it's probably best he didn't play.
Yeah. I mean, there probably been people in the past, players in the past who have had this issue, and in the past you couldn't talk about it. So they probably just played with it, and it probably showed. Yeah. Look back at some of the great players who have had some really, really bad games in baseball, football, basketball,
Plenty.
and I bet you that they were going through some mental issues.
And couldn't say anything.
Yeah, couldn't say anything back then.
Yeah.
Oh, toughen up.
I'm sure you can go down a long list if you really looked at it. And some people are just afraid of that moment, that big moment when the game is on the line.
Yeah.
I think it was Rex Chapman said years ago that he played with people that averaged 20 plus a game, but when it was on the line, they would run from the ball. I mean, that's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. Not everybody can handle that. And, some of it might just be sports related, but who knows? Ben Simmons' issue could be beyond sports.
Well, I think a lot of it is the fans now. I mean, the fans put so much pressure on you. I mean, one minute they love you and they're cheering for you, and then you do something wrong, and now they're attacking you, and now they're saying some racist things about you.
And you hear it all the time. It's not just on the news. It's on social media, so you can't get away from it now. So it's a lot different than those athletes of days past before social media. But now,
the criticism from some fans, I mean, is ridiculous. It's just a game.
Yeah,
it's
the way
just
they
a game.
talk about these people like they're not even human. I mean, they go in. So hopefully Ben Simmons gets what he needs, and the Brooklyn Nets. Although I'm not really cheering for them next year, but. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's not my team, Brooklyn Nets. Some people, if you want to talk about something, some people are upset that these people are building teams. They're grabbing superstars and trying to, force manufacture championships.
But it's not working, so why are you mad?
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm mad.
I know, but I'm asking them, why are they mad? I mean,
because they don't think it's right. They'll go back and say, oh, so and so never did that.
So what?
So and so never did that.
Who didn't do it?
They'll say people like Jordan. But Jordan
did.
did pick. Yeah, he did go out and get players that he wanted. So make no mistake about that.
Yeah, Magic. There's rumor that Magic got his coach fired. Early on. I mean, I know that. Have you watched that Showtime series? I might start watching that.
No.
It's Showtime about the Laker dynasty. Of course, Jerry West, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic.
I didn't see the first episode.
They hate this thing.
Yeah, Jerry West was suing, but I saw that first episode, and I understand why Jerry West. I saw
the preview. And he was hating.
I understand. But even back Showtime Lakers. James Worthy wasn't on that team. He was an all-star elsewhere. They wouldn't got him.
Yeah.
So you can't just say it's something new. I think these players, and LeBron, maybe he's the one that really got it going. These players are going to decide their own future. They're not letting owners, and I'm not mad about that. You're going to let some owner, some general manager tell you where you're going to go, whose team you're going to play for. These players no, we're going to take things in our own hand.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at that at all.
Yeah, I applaud LeBron for that. I mean,
he took control of his career.
He's his own owner. He just works out and deals with these team owners to.
He's a contractor.
Yeah, he's just a contractor. So that's how you do it.
He ain't gonna own me.
When he retires, I mean, how many teams are gonna retire his jersey?
That's something. Yeah. All right. So St. Louis Public Radio. And it's been in other areas, but this is where I first heard it. St. Louis Public Radio said that the state of Missouri is dead last. That's number 50 in terms of teachers' pay. The state of Missouri, dead last in teachers' pay. Serious problem.
It is a very serious problem. Our state, the teachers are paid peanuts compared to everywhere else. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out why Missouri is last. I mean, why the teachers in Missouri make so little money.
Well, we have backwards thinking people in Jefferson City, the state capital, who aren't very intelligent. Again, we talked about this. You need an IQ test. More than an IQ test, you got to read a book and explain it before you get elected to office.
Yeah, show that you can comprehend.
But even though Missouri's ranked last, I mean, you just talk about teachers' pay, period, because there have been teacher strikes in Minneapolis, Sacramento, and the teachers in Chicago were locked out of online class because they didn't want to go back in person during the COVID height of COVID. So they were locked out. So there have been issues all over in terms of teachers and pay. So the National Education Association showed that 55% of educators are thinking about leaving the profession. It's a high stress job.
High stress. I worked in the school.
I did too, for just a semester. And that was good enough.
Yeah.
So it's high stress, but not a lot of pay. So even though Missouri's last.
And being a teacher used to be a respected profession. Yeah. I mean, people used to respect teachers, but now, parents are telling, depending on what school you go to, I mean, teachers get no respect.
Yeah.
No respect whatsoever. I mean, the parents don't respect the teachers. If the parents don't respect the teachers, the students won't respect the teachers. So, yeah, I mean, that's a tough job for little money. I can see why people are leaving.
It was rough.
In my opinion, if you've been a teacher for 10 years, you should be at least making six figures.
At least
six figures.
You got to start off. I mean, if you want to attract the smartest people in our country, then you have to raise teachers' salaries. Because right now, the smartest people aren't going into that.
Yeah.
They're going into other fields where they can make money and not have to deal with the stress and strain of working with other kids or other people's children.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a paraprofessional, I was just a teacher's assistant. And I had to call a parent because the kid was acting up. And the parent said, well, he's at school. You're supposed to deal with it. I'm like, and I wanted to say, well, I can't choke him. There's nothing I can do. I can't, what am I going to do to get this child to obey, to follow in line? Man. The only thing I can do is to threaten to call you Miss Whatever, and you have to put the fear of God in him. If you don't care that he acts up, there's nothing I can do.
Nothing.
There's nothing I can do to get this child to cooperate.
And that's why I wouldn't want to work in the school system. I mean, a salute to anyone that does, but I mean, the rules don't help the teachers. I remember when I was working as a substitute, I mean, kids, they know the rules, man. You're a substitute. You can't throw kids out of class. I mean, they know them. They know the rules. You can't throw them out of class. You can't. I mean, there's really nothing you can do. I mean, your hands are tied. I remember a kid told me, my mama said, I ain't got to listen to none of these teachers up here. And I'm like, man, well, why don't you tell your mama to homeschool you, dude? Because the trouble you're giving us is legendary.
And all that leads to, I mean, you know,
I know what it leads to.
What kind of life that leads to.
In third grade, after third grade, they're making a prison bed for you. They're building a cell. They're building a hard bed with rubber sheets or whatever kind of sheets they use to make it uncomfortable in prison. But after third grade, they know whether or not you're headed to jail or you're going to be a productive citizen or in and out of prison. I mean,
well, you know, Bill Cosby, I know that's a bad name because he's, you know.
Well, I mean, he still made history. Got to give him what he did.
But he did. I mean, he talked about parents taking responsibility. You can't just turn your kid over to the schools and say, okay, once they're at school, it's all them. I mean, if the kid's not going to get in trouble for making bad grades or getting in trouble at school, then I don't know what a teacher can do.
Nothing. I mean, like you said, you can't hit them.
I mean, there's some teachers though. I mean, and God bless them and give them triple pay, who know how to even break through all of that. They're not going to, I mean, you can't reach everybody. If you got 7 hard heads in the class whose parents don't care, it's going to be tough to reach all of them, but you can maybe reach a few. And those teachers.
You got several hard heads in one class. It's going to be hard to teach the rest of those kids in that class because the disruption that they're going to cause is going to prevent you from doing that. I mean, you're going to be so busy disciplining those kids that you're not going to be able to teach the ones that aren't acting up. And then the ones that aren't acting up are going to see the kids that are acting up getting away with it, basically. Because, I mean, you send them out of class and the principal talks to them, don't do that. I mean, and I can't blame the principals. I mean, I'm not blaming the educators anyway, but then you send them back to class and, I mean, what punishment is there? There's no punishment. You had a class for 15 minutes and they have, nowadays you have to keep the kids in the class because everybody, if you're in the class, then you can pass. But, I don't want to criticize.
Well, that's depends on the school district.
Yeah,
I don't think that's every
every
school district.
Yeah.
But,
the school systems need to change. I'm not saying the teacher should be able to hit the kids, but you should be able to do almost everything up to it. I mean, you shouldn't even have to do that. If the parents are involved and if the parents are active, then, I mean, and the teachers are working with the parents, you won't have the problem. But I guess the problem nowadays are the parents. I mean, the parents are pretty ignorant nowadays, too. I mean, they're on TikTok and doing the little dances and doing, what's the twerking?
Twerking is old, man.
Man, I see people doing it
they
all
still
the time.
doing it.
Yeah, they're doing it all the time.
So, but yeah, you're right with the parents. So when I was calling this kid's parent, I was like, okay, I thought I just had to threaten. If I threaten, because
Go ahead,
back when we grew up, and probably not everyone, so I'm not gonna say everyone. People say back when we grew up, in our situation, if there was a threat to call home, that's all that needed to be said.
I think most situations it was like that. The threat to call home. Well, I guess a lot of kids we went to school with didn't care. Well, a couple of them, I don't want to say their names, but
I don't know.
They were some spoiled kids, and I mean, they did some unbelievable things, but I ain't got away with it. But we were different,
Man.
We couldn't do that. We were
Some of the stuff.
we were different, and when I say different, I mean we were black.
Well, you talking about something else, not just parents. You talking about the school.
The
school that we went to. Yeah, I remember. Man, I want to call one student. You remember?
I mean,
I know you know who I'm talking about. Who did unbelievable stuff.
Yeah, and got away with it.
Didn't get in there.
Because their parents, I mean,
Anyway.
Yeah.
But the school system, I've said this 1,000 times. The school system is broke because schools receive money based on property taxes. So if a child is born into a low income area, you're automatically in a school that receives less funding simply because the property taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a flawed system.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I mean, it's designed that way. It's designed that way. Don't think that it's not. I mean, it is designed that way. It's systemic. It started years ago, and it continues today. But
so it's urban school districts and rural school districts that are suffering.
Yes.
Those suburban school districts, you can look around in Kansas City area. The suburban school districts do well. They got state of the art stuff. They're doing well.
Coffee shops in there.
Teachers are making some pretty good money.
Yeah, but the average teacher is what we're talking about in Missouri. I mean,
But what brings
ridiculous.
the pay down is urban, St. Louis, Kansas City, and then all the rural areas. I would imagine doesn't matter the state. But I was reading an article on CNBC website that said the United States was number 7 in paying teachers salary terms of what they make after 15 years. So Luxembourg was first, Germany, Canada, Netherlands, Australia, Ireland, and then the United States. But it also said the United States, there's even a pay gap depending on what state you are in. And within the state, depending on what city or county you're in. So even in the United States, the pay gap between some public school teachers and other public school teachers, I mean, it's night and day.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I wonder what the difference is between black and white. I mean, I would imagine that would be pretty far, the separation between black teachers and white teachers. But I guess that's with any occupation.
Yeah, I mean, blacks are still paid less. So, I mean, that's nothing new. I would imagine it would carry over in education. But if black teachers are in urban school districts, then yeah, they're going to make less than those out in the suburban school districts. And, you know, what happens is all of these, a lot of charter schools, because, and you know, I don't know how you feel about charter schools.
There's a lot of them.
But I've seen some charter schools, they need more regulations. I wouldn't send anybody to some of the charter schools that I'm aware of. I'm not going to name them. I'll get some death threats. But if you're honest, you know good and doggone well. I know of some charter schools where they ain't teaching nothing. They even have teachers who aren't certified teachers. I mean, some haven't even finished college.
Are you sure they're teachers or are they just?
Yes.
Well, there are some good charter schools.
Yeah, there
I've
are.
worked at some.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so there are some. I don't know.
But the regulations from school to school, it's a tough. So there is the crisis. All you have to do is look it up. There's an education crisis, and we're headed. Some experts are saying we are headed for a major crisis with education.
I don't think we're headed there. I think we're already there.
Well, they're saying it's going to get a lot worse because 55% of educators are thinking of leaving.
Yeah.
That's going to leave a huge gap. And you're not going to attract the brightest and the smartest unless that pay goes up. You have to look at it. You should look at it anyway like a calling. But you have to really believe in that calling to go to a school district where things are in shambles and you're making $25,000. I think that they said that in the lowest school districts in Missouri, that's where people are starting out, $25,000.
$25,000 to teach? Man, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How can you live off that?
They don't.
In Missouri and Kansas City, you can't live off that in Kansas City.
No. You can't live, I don't think you can live off that pretty much anywhere today. Maybe 15 years ago you could. But what in one of the articles I was reading says teachers are getting second jobs. Some have 3 jobs, which doesn't make sense. I'm not talking about a job during the summer, during the off year. I'm talking about you
job
going
after school.
Yeah. Once you finish your duties, you're going to Walmart or wherever, Sears. I don't think there are any more Sears, but you get the point. You're going to find it. That shouldn't be. One thing that has been suggested that could help, because the problem with raising teacher salary, states are saying, well, then we increase spending. You could work something out. I don't care. If you're elected office, you should be smart enough to figure something out. But one thing that has been suggested, because states don't want to increase spending, is that all public school teachers should be exempt from federal income taxes. And that would save a whole lot of money. That would keep, rather, a whole lot of money in their pockets.
You would get a lot of people trying to be teachers again.
Well,
that would help with the teaching.
And it should be competitive.
Yeah.
If you have an influx of people trying to become teachers, then it becomes competitive.
Right.
That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, because the education, I think we've talked about it several times on this show. The future of this country, the education, the illiteracy and the ignorance that is widespread, that you see it on social media, is pretty bad. So I mean, we need some teachers. We need teachers to be paid well.
Absolutely. You all work out the teacher stuff. Maybe I'll go teach.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gonna go teach. If teachers are making good salary, you have people back in there, and you have to have some rules, though. You have to have rules. I'm not saying you can't. You should be able to hit the kids, but
You have to have some form of
something.
I mean, you
man.
can't put them in isolation. You can't,
Yeah, I
ISS,
think
don't
you still
know.
have ISS.
But
Yeah, I think they have ISS, but yeah, you have to do something. The parents, and if you call a parent and they're like, well, you're at school, you should be doing something, then maybe that parent needs to be fined or something. That parent needs to be
arrest him. But
you can arrest him for being a
no,
bad
you can arrest
parent.
him. Yeah, you can. Why not?
Yeah,
Arrest
no,
them. Arrest them. Or you say you ought to have the authority to say, okay, if that's the way you're thinking, I'm just going to go ahead and send your son to the gang part of town and just let him do what he's headed to do, because I mean, obviously you don't care. So I'm going to give him a crack pipe and send him on his way. Is that okay, Mrs. Johnson?
Or just, if that's how you feel, then we can no longer keep your kid in school. I mean,
Yeah, but now that something like that could work, but of course that's illegal. You can't do that.
I mean, I don't see why it shouldn't. You're out of school, you had to go to. They used to have a school where all the kids that got kicked out went to.
Yeah, you don't want to work in that school, because I know one of those schools.
That's a step below the juvenile delinquent, the county jail.
I'm familiar with one of those schools. There were a few shootings, got shot up a few times, and eventually had to close because it was rough.
Yeah, well, you got to do something.
Yeah,
you got to do something.
You all have some solutions. Put it in there. Maybe we'll write our legislators and inform them. But we got to get the right people in office, because unfortunately,
we can get one of them on the show. We've been talking about having a guest. Our guest for this week fell through.
Yeah. Okay. I have somebody. I'm gonna ask her next week.
But we had to
state rep. We'll work that out. All right. So NFL draft in honor of the National Football League draft. We're looking at who are our top 5 favorite overall number 1 draft picks, and I'm going to go first. Favorite overall number 1 draft picks. All right. So at number 5, drafted in 1983 by the Denver Broncos, a great quarterback, won a Super Bowl. Did he win a Super? Yeah, John Elway. Guy by the name of John Elway. Great passer, great arm. Selected number 1 in 1983. So he's my number 5. Now, again, I'm not giving you the best. I'm giving you favorite. And so number 4, this guy was drafted, another quarterback, a lot of quarterbacks, because, they tend to go first. 2001, the Atlanta Falcons selected Michael Vick. And Michael Vick changed the way a lot of people looked at the quarterback position, because the dude could run and he could pass. I mean, he was a serious threat. I mean, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, people
Michael
hated
Vick.
on him too.
Yeah, come on, he's a black quarterback.
He runs too much.
Yeah, he did take a lot of criticism, and then he missed some time in the NFL.
Man, his prime years.
Yeah,
some prime years.
He missed it. So Michael Vick, just because he was fun, he was a fun person to watch. Number 3 is Terry Bradshaw. Yeah, I know. He played for the Steelers. He was selected number 1 in 1970.
He said some crazy stuff.
Yeah, he said some crazy. I mean, he suffered from depression while he was in the NFL, which goes to show money and fame don't solve problems. He suffered from, I think he said 10 years, suffered from depression. But he was tough. That was back in the days when they didn't have many rules for protecting quarterbacks. You could
do anything to the quarterback back then.
You could destroy a quarterback.
Man, you could do anything except poke him in his eye.
Man, you could probably get away with that.
I mean, if you were in a puddle in a crowd,
you could get away with that, man.
Them quarterbacks used to get beat up.
But he was a tough. That's the thing about him. He was a tough dude.
You could do man.
Yeah. I mean, they protect quarterbacks, and that's a good thing. But back then, you could slaughter a man. Number 2, Peyton Manning, 1998, selected by the Indianapolis Colts. And, of course, he would go on to win Super Bowls. And great player, has a bunch of records. He was one of my favorite players at the time. Good player. Not my favorite quarterback. He had to play for the Chiefs in order to be my favorite, but he's up there. Number 1, favorite all-time overall number 1 draft pick, my main man, 1978, Houston Oilers, Earl Campbell.
Man.
That was one of my favorite running backs, is one of my favorite running backs of all time. He was what you call a power runner. You had to get out of the way. You weren't going to just be some cornerback trying to take him on one-on-one. You had to gang tackle that dude.
Yeah.
Strong. He was
Big
only
dude.
5'11", like 240.
His legs were like tree trunks.
Yeah, dude, man, he was a strong dude. So that's who I have as my favorite overall number 1 draft pick, Earl Campbell, 1978, Houston Oilers. Who you got?
All right. Well, for my list, I don't know if I should say it. It might be controversial, but I mean, before he was a murderer, we have to say, we can't lie and say that he wasn't one of our favorite players when we were kids. But, I'm going to have to say number 5, O.J. Simpson, the murderer.
He did kill.
Yeah, he is a murderer. He
got off. He got off. So we're supposed to say.
He allegedly. He allegedly murdered some people.
From what I've seen and read, man, that dude did it. He did it.
Yeah, but when we were young,
but he was cold.
Before we knew he was a murderer, I have to say I enjoyed watching him play.
Before we knew he was a murderer and a wife beater.
Before we knew all of this.
Yeah, he was cold. You can't,
so
O.J. Simpson was cold.
I don't like to, since as a person who studies history and documents history, I don't want to erase history. So O.J. Simpson, he was a great running back. I think the first running back to rush for 2,000 yards in a season.
Fast, at speed.
Commercials, movies. He was a superstar and he was a murderer. I'm not gonna let him off the hook with that. He was a murderer that got away with it and killed 2 innocent people.
But football.
But football,
he could play.
He could play. So number 4, I think I'm going to put Michael Vick. Michael Vick, he was one of my favorite quarterbacks. Elusive, quick, could do it all. He got in trouble for fighting dogs, dog fighting. I don't think he should have gone to prison for it. But I don't think people should be fighting dogs. But ruined a couple of years of his of his career. He missed 3 seasons in his prime.
Yeah,
in his
tough.
Prime,
because you don't get a whole lot of seasons in football.
Yeah, you don't get
not in football.
But he still had a great season, great career. So number 3, I'm going to pick Bruce Smith, Buffalo Bills.
Yeah.
Great player, 4-time. What do they call it? 4-time
player of the year.
No. 4 times bridesmaid, never won the Super Bowl. He was part of that Buffalo Bills team that went to the Super Bowl 4 times, but never won it. Never could win it all. Still a great player. Football. I don't think championships determine a great player, especially in football. And he was a great player. Number 2, I'm gonna have to go with. It's gonna be similar to yours, the last 2. Peyton Manning, he was one of my favorite football players. I just thought he was brilliant as a quarterback. Changing the play on the line.
He knew how to read the defense.
He knew how to read the defense. Great player, great player. So yeah, Peyton Manning number 2. Number 1, I'm gonna have to go with. He has the best sausage in the market.
Yes, sir.
Man, that sausage is delicious. Earl Campbell. If you haven't had the Earl Campbell sausage, go get you some of those hot links. Earl Campbell was highly praised in our household when we were growing up. I mean, just what he used to do, carry people. People try to tackle him, he'd carry him 3, 4, 5 yards before they could bring him down. So yeah, he was a fun player. So
Tough dude.
yeah, Earl Campbell, and still doing it with the sausage. You know, still number 1 with the sausage. You know,
Saucy.
Yeah.
Who used to say saucy?
Yeah, so he was number 1 favorite draft picks, Hall of Famer, and number 1 with the sausage.
I think all of them are Hall of Famers,
Well,
except
yeah,
Michael Vick.
Well, I mean, I think eventually he will be.
I hope so. I mean, you never know. People hold on. I mean, you know,
Yeah,
you look
I
at
don't
Kevin
know.
Johnson in the NBA because of some things that happened with him.
Well, because of his political views.
I think because, you know, he was accused of a few things.
But I thought he got off of that.
He did. I mean, he was never convicted. But why isn't he in all right, that's another subject. So I can see, you know, some people, you know.
Yeah, I would think that he'd be in there. Do they count? I mean, I don't know.
Is Pete Rose still in the Hall of Fame? Wasn't he removed? I mean,
No, he never was. That was his thing. That was his punishment. He couldn't be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
but it's like you said. He gambled, but you can't take away what he did.
Yeah, that's kind of silly. I would say
You can't take away what the dude did. I know
Yeah.
he gambled, and he should receive some punishment. But I thought they erased all of his records in Major League Baseball.
I don't think so. But he should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you have the racist Ty Cobb in there. So, I mean, Pete Rose, with the mistakes he made, he should be in there. That's like the UFC. What's his name? Frank Shamrock is in the UFC Hall of Fame, which is ridiculous.
Frank Shamrock was one of the early mixed martial arts fighters, one of the great. I mean, he really transformed the sport because before Frank Shamrock, people, if you knew karate, you'd go in there and fight karate against judo.
Well, his brother Ken, right?
Well,
really,
yeah.
but still.
I mean, it's both of them,
Yeah.
the Lions Den. So we'll say Ken and Frank Shamrock, like, no, we're going to mix all of it together. And it really became mixed martial arts. But because he's not liked by the president,
He can't be in the Hall of Fame. So,
Which is
yeah,
silly.
they might keep Michael Vick out for some silliness like that. Yeah.
So, well, here's our list. Let us know what you think. Your favorite number 1 draft picks of all time.
For all time.
Join us again every Tuesday. We drop a new episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcast.
Next week, I'll have my mic stand back.
My mic
The mic stand.
nice. Need that mic.
Didn't work, so I had to hold it. Hope everybody could hear me good, but yeah, we'll be back to normal. I won't be holding my mic the next time.
Peace.
Peace. Be sure to subscribe.
I'm of the models, here I am. I come, that's where I'm from. I say I'm going.